Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Undertaking the Colts. My name is Blake Waters, and today we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive. Right now, it is Saturday, September I believe it is it's the 9th. So, um, tomorrow, big day for Indianapolis Colts fans. We are going to be kicking off what we hope to be is the beginning of a new 15 to 20 year run of success. Um, we're coming out of training camp. There were some highlights, definitely some struggles. However, I think this season might surprise us, and hopefully after this deep dive, I can show you kind of into the window of hindsight that I'm looking into some optimism. Some of you may have some pessimism, and it's understandable. You know, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, a roster that is averaging 26 years of age, and not a lot of experience in big games, in playoffs, or really just the NFL as a whole. So I look forward to going on this ride with you, and please forgive me. I may stutter a little bit, may hesitate, trying to gather my thoughts, but hey, we're here to have a good time. So let's go ahead and get into it. So, with the game being tomorrow, 1 p.m. kickoff time against the Jacksonville Jaguars here at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I am looking forward to many, many aspects of the Colts. They intrigue me, and they intrigue me in different ways. Some ways more or less of excitement. I would say that's the majority of it. Excitement, of course, budding around our young star quarterback, Anthony Richardson, who Brian and I discussed in our previous session of Undertaking the Colts as this physical freak and overall a really great human being as well. And when you get those two together, that is a franchise cornerstone to build around. And I believe that is what, not just Colts fans in general, but really whether it's a reporter, whether it's a media, national level, local level, um, ownership, being Mr. Ursay, Chris Ballard, the general manager, and really anybody who loves the NFL. This is what you want to see. You want to see a franchise, get somebody like an Anthony Richardson to really build around, right? And last year was an absolute abomination in terms of Indianapolis Colts football. We struggled to get 4 wins, and we really shouldn't have had 4 wins last year based off of our roster. It was decrepit. It was just a bunch of pieces that didn't fit. And I think overall, as much as I enjoyed his coaching style at times, Frank Reich frustrated me. And, I wish him the best of luck, going to Carolina to be the Carolina Panthers head coach. I wish him nothing but the best. He's a good man, doing a great cause. If you didn't know, Frank Reich, he has a program, he and his wife, they set up a program in Indianapolis, and I believe they took it with them to Charlotte, where I believe they were battling, I believe child sex abuse, which is a big ordeal in this country. But, let's not talk about that. It is something to bring attention to. But yeah, so here we go. Let's get into Colts football tonight. So I know it's a little bit late for me. I'm a little bit sleepy, but let's chug through it. So let's start off with the roster. Now, I said earlier at the beginning of this program, this roster is one of the youngest, if not the youngest in the NFL. I'll have to look that up. But we are averaging around 26.2 years of age, I believe is the number. That is extremely young. Whereas most of your high profile teams like the Kansas City Chiefs are somewhere around 29, 30 years of age, maybe 28. But they've got stars everywhere, right? Tampa Bay a couple years ago, they were older, but when you have a 44-year-old quarterback at Tom Brady, it happens. So, the Indianapolis Colts do not have a single player over the age of 30. I don't even think they have somebody at the age of 30, which is remarkable. Maybe Ryan Kelly, the center. But that's just something that kind of is crazy to me. But it also gives me hope that with a young roster like this, they can bond quickly, they can mold together, because that was Matt Ryan's problem last year. Was he, and he even self-admitted that he had a hard time bonding with his younger teammates. He had a hard time making those connections. And in a sports locker room, if you played above the high school level, or even if you remember your high school years where you're in the locker room, and if you're a young gun, trying to mold with the upperclassmen, or if you're an upperclassman trying to lead the younger kids, it's hard. It's really hard. And they're only 2 to 4 years apart. Think Matt Ryan was 37, 38 years old last year, and we had rookies at the age of 21, 22. That is a massive gap, right? A generational gap. So I think this year, with such a young roster, the cohesion will be better. And when cohesion is better and that chemistry is better, you play better. So let's go ahead and go down position by position, because we got into this a little bit for about 5 to 10 minutes last segment, where we did I gave my oversight on who I was excited to see, what position groups were showing promise, what other ones I was worried about. But now that the 53-man roster is set for the season, we do not have any significant injuries currently, which is amazing, and bless up to them. So let's go ahead and start off. So right now I'm on the Indianapolis Colts team page under their roster, and I have filtered out by position. Now they go alphabetically, so it's going to be kind of a mumbo jumbo. So I apologize for that, but let's start off. So it lists center being the first position. So anybody whose primary position is center, this is who is listed first. And we have three players. We have Wesley French, Ryan Kelly, and Will Fries. Ryan Kelly being the veteran of the bunch. It shows him at 6'4", 307, age 30, out of Alabama. If you remember, he was the 16th overall pick by the Indianapolis Colts, I believe, in the 2016 NFL Draft. So he's battled injury issues lately. He's coming out healthy. He was not on the injury report, so he will be anchoring center. Now, Will Fries, I believe, is the starting right guard. Now, last year, right guard was a huge issue. Whether it was Danny Pinter or a couple of other players that I apologize, I can't remember their name. Right guard and left guard, respectively, were not ideal. And left guard is Quentin Nelson, right? So, I think, gathering my thoughts here, I think that Will Fries going into his third season, there's much potential there for him to be better, because he's a big dude. He's 6'6", 305 listed here. And, him and Ryan Kelly, hopefully, again, the cohesion factor, because an offensive line, you got your two tackles, your two guards, and your center. If you have a steady five up front, and I think this was another issue last year where inconsistent play and injuries were the big two factors where I think the Colts O-line struggled mightily. And this season, let's knock on wood here and, pray to God that all five offensive linemen are able to play the majority, if not all, of the snaps together to create that cohesion. All right, stalling here. So there's our primary centers listed, but again, we said Will Fries, Wesley French. He might see some playing time in jumbo package, inside the 5-yard line, trying to do heavy run game. Anthony Richardson sneaks, RPOs, run pass options, anything of that nature where it's a jumbo package. All right, next position listed is cornerback. And cornerback, I said it last segment, and the Colts reporters and any sort of knowledgeable fan, this is the position of most concern. And I say this because they're young. So I'm going to read off the cornerbacks currently listed. We've got Darrell Baker Jr., Juju or Julius Brents, Tony Brown, Dallas Flowers, Jalen Jones, and Kenny Moore II. Kenny Moore II is one of Brian and I's favorites. He is a community man first, great football player, better human being, and he's played it at an all-pro level, Pro Bowl level. So here's the concern I have for corner, right? Here's the respective ages: 25, 23, 28, 26, 21, 28. Now, doing some quick math here, the average amount of experience in the NFL for these 6 players is somewhere around 4 to 4.5 years. Now, a cornerback, especially in today's NFL, takes I wouldn't say a lot or several, but 2 to 4 years to really hone their craft at an NFL level, right? They can be really good coming out of college, but they struggle in the NFL level because the game's faster. We have 2 rookie corners with Juju and Jalen Jones. Now, both of them showed flash in training camp, and both of them are really, really tall and long. Juju is 6'3", and Jalen is 6'2", respectively. Those are pretty impressive, heights for corners, because your average corner comes in around 5'11", 6 foot even. These 2 rookies, I think, they're not starting, but I believe that we could see them in multi-receiver sets. Jacksonville this weekend is probably going to throw quite a few of them at us because they do have 3 pretty decent caliber wide receivers, if not elite can be. And I'm mainly referring to Calvin Ridley, who was acquired from the Atlanta Falcons. He is coming off a year-long suspension that he served last year for inappropriate gambling. Can't do that. Don't do that. But he won't do it again. And, a lot of these matchups I'm worried about. So the current starting corners for the outside are Darrell Baker Jr. and Dallas Flowers. They're both 6'1", respectively. But they have less than 2 years of experience, right? And they're both just really, really young and unseasoned, if you will. So I really hope that they mature quickly, and they might. Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator for the Colts, is very intelligent. And we went over this a little bit last time. Gus Bradley is the father of the famous Seattle Legion of Boom cover 3 scheme. Now, what a cover 3 is you're playing 3 high zone coverages to prevent the deep outside passes. But with the way the Colts play their defense is they primarily play with 2 linebackers and 3 cornerbacks, right? So you got your 2 outside, and then you got your slot corner, which is going to be Kenny Moore, otherwise known as the nickel. Kenny Moore has, as we've said, proven time and time again that he is top in the nickel slot. And, there's really not a lot of depth here, and I'm very concerned about that. But at the same time, I'm also excited because between Baker, Flowers, Jones, and Brents, the 4 of the youngest in this position group, they showed flashes. And when I mean flashes, they were not afraid to get in receivers' faces in man-to-man coverage. They weren't afraid to attack the ball. Now, granted, some of these, when they were attacking the ball, when I say attacking the ball, is they read or assume a receiver route, and they break fast on the ball based either if the ball's in flight or the quarterback's eyes, right? Because in a zone coverage, which is what this cover 3 is, it is a zone coverage, corners are taught to read the eyes of the quarterback. And, a really, really good quarterback, and I would say even your average NFL starter to a decent quarterback, knows how to use their eyes and look off a corner. And when I say look off, meaning look a different direction or stare down the receiver that the pass is not intended to go to, right? So that way the corner drifts and comes off of his zone. So that way that frees up the man that he is supposed to be covering. That frees that pass up to the quarterback, and boom, look that direction and fire a strike, whether it be on an outside breaking route or a double move going up the sideline. So, that's kind of my concern there is, can these corners adjust to that? Can they adjust to the speed of the NFL? Can they adjust to, a Calvin Ridley or a Zay Jones or Christian Kirk running across the middle, not afraid, to go across the middle, across those linebackers' faces or behind them, just getting behind that zone, right? So that's something that I'm afraid of. So, but it's also exciting. They've got a lot of potential. Defensive end. I'm going to try not to butcher some names here, but we got Adetomowa Adebawore, who is rookie out of Northwestern, 6'2", 282, very explosive at the combine. I don't believe he is a starter, but a lot of potential there. Samson Abukum, who was acquired via free agency. He was on the San Francisco 49ers defense last year. Um, he was not a starter for them, but he played a significant amount of snaps. Um, I believe he's going to be the starting right defensive end across from Kwity Paye, the third-year player out of Michigan who has shown several flashes. He was our first-round pick a few years ago, and Kwity Paye needs to step up. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Going into your third season, this is where I need to see defensive ends start popping consistently, and not just on third down, not just 2 to 5 plays out of the game, right? I need to see consistent pop, consistent pressure. Are you beating the tackles with a spin move, a swim move? Are you beating them with a bull rush? Change it up. Do you have a full arsenal of pass rush moves to beat your offensive lineman, to beat the tackle, right? Because a really good quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, excuse me, my light just went out. A really good quarterback will fire the ball out of their hand in 3 seconds or less. I'm going to try and move here. Apologize for this. But a really good quarterback will get the ball out of their hands in 3 seconds or less. And, if the defensive end can't immediately pop off of the ball, right, you're not going to get to that quarterback. Like a Trevor Lawrence, right? I guarantee you there is going to be a lot of quick passes, a lot of simple concepts to get the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands. We saw this last year. Trevor Lawrence consistently did 3-step drops, boom, found whether it's a slant, a quick out, he torched us last year. I believe he completed darn near 80 to 85% of passes against the Colts last year, which is insane. It is absolutely insane to think about because the average NFL completion percentage is under 67%. And that's still completing 2/3 of your passes. But, that's like, you're not even stopping them 2/3 of the time. And if they're getting 5 to 7 yard chunks every time, that's first down after first down. So that's the importance of that pass rush coming off of the edge. And I need to see that from Kwity Paye, Dio Odengbo, and another player that, you cross your heart that can stay healthy is Tyquan Lewis. And Brian and I talked about this. Tyquan Lewis has shown tremendous, and I mean tremendous flashes over these past couple years, but he's just been derailed by injury. And he hasn't had a chance. Gosh darn it. I'm sorry. I'm using a mobile device here. This is kind of upsetting here. Um, but he's shown flashes. Tyquan, if he can stay healthy for a full 17-game season, I can almost see anywhere from 6 to 9 sacks, maybe more. But, we'll see. This is, again, another position group that's fairly young, not a lot of experience, but the potential is there. All right, so that's defensive end. Defensive tackle, the really big dogs up front. That stuff runs. We've got Taven Bryan, the 6-year man out of Florida. He's been mainly a depth guy, and he'll continue to do that. Big 99, DeForest Buckner, listed at 6'7", 295 out of Oregon. DeForest Buckner, one of my favorite players. He is a game wrecker. Plain and simple, he is a game wrecker. And we need him to continue doing so. He got a couple banged up injuries at points last year. I believe he did miss a couple of games, but he played through some injuries and was still tossing O linemen everywhere. If Buck is healthy, the Colts O line goes, and that's part one of the two interior. Part two, and you can even call him part one, is Grover Stewart at 6'4", 314. This is his 7th year out of Albany State, and I love him. He is one of, I would say, my top 4 favorite players on this team. Mentioned it last week with Brian. He does something every training camp called the Grove Pro, where he takes a GoPro camera and sticks on top of his helmet for a couple of practices, and the footage is pretty funny. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. You can find it on the Indianapolis Colts page, whether it's YouTube, their official site, or on Twitter, now known as X, or the Elon Musk app, if you will. So we've got Taven Bryan, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Eric Johnson II, second-year man out of Missouri State. Good rotational guy. Those are your 4 defensive tackles. all very large human beings, and I believe that they're going to be a key cog into the defense. We need them to stay healthy. We need them to continue producing. All right, next position here on the Colts site is guard. It's only listing two, so it's Quentin Nelson and Josh Sills. Quentin Nelson, obviously being the All-Pro left guard. This will be his 6th season already out of Notre Dame. He was our number 6 overall pick way back in, let's see, got to do some math, 2018 draft, excuse me. So this will be Quentin Nelson's 6th season. He needs to step up. I wouldn't say slouch is not the correct word. He slumped, right? I don't believe he was fully healthy last year. Um, he may have been battling some off the field issues as well. I could be mistaken. But I'm not going to assume what goes on with these players' lives, right? They're human beings. They go through the struggles like you and I do. They have trials and tribulations, and they have to get over this, right? They have to push through it like we do. And, bless up to Quentin Nelson. I wish him the best. I hope he can return to that elite form because we need it, and we need it bad for Anthony Richardson and the offense to succeed. Josh Sills will be a backup. The depth overall of the O-line concerns me. If you watched any preseason games, it was concerning. It was extremely concerning. The second and third team O-lines, respectively, were just Swiss cheese. And I mean the biggest whole Swiss cheese that you can buy at a supermarket. It was rough. Kicker, Matt Gay, our big free agent signing, if you will, came from the Los Angeles Rams. He has, I believe, the fourth, fifth, or sixth. He's in the top 6 of made kick percentage in NFL history. So getting an accurate kicker is huge. I know a couple years ago and starting into last year, we had struggles with Rodrigo Blankenship, a fan favorite. Um, Hopefully he finds some work, and I wish him the best. But we need consistency in the kicking game. How many points have we missed in the past 3 to 4 seasons that could have been, decided several games, whether it's field goals, extra points, anything of that nature. And I want to see stability at the kicking game, and I believe Matt Gay will deliver it. All right, so let's go to one of the strongest units on this team, and that's linebacker. We have 2 captains here at the linebacking position. We have Zaire Franklin and Shaquille Leonard, both of them going into their 6th NFL season as well. Zaire Franklin was the 7th round pick in 2018. Shaquille Leonard, formerly known as Darius, was a 2nd round pick out of South Carolina State. And he has also battled injuries over the last 2 years. And he has cleared concussion protocol. I believe he will start, but I would not be surprised to see a limited snap count for him, right? Because he did miss some time. He has missed a lot of time over the last 2, 3 seasons, and we really need him to stay healthy and stay in good football condition because this man deserves everything that he's gotten, and I want to see consistent. I want to see him play 17 games, start 17 games, take back his record of tackles in a season that Zaire Franklin got last year. So we got Zaire and Shaquille. We for our reserves, we've got Isaiah Land, Cameron McGrone, and Segun Alubi. It looks like I don't know too much about those players, but it looks like they're both or all. Or excuse me, all 3 of them will be going into their 2nd season or less. So we've got some really nice youth to sit behind Zaire and Shaquille. And then our starting our starting Sam linebacker, Sam meaning strong side linebacker, Shaquille Leonard plays the will or the weak side, and Zaire Franklin is the Mike or the middle linebacker. EJ Speed is the strong side linebacker who comes in when we are playing 3 linebackers, which is not our base defense. Our base defense is a nickel base, which means we always have 3 corners out on the field, unless we have a strong linebacking defense in there, meaning there's 3 there. And then last but not least, we have Grant Stewart, who I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago that Grant Stewart flashed considerably in the preseason, and he's never started in the NFL at the linebacking position, but he's always been what's been known as a special teams ace, and he has, I believe he led the Colts last year in special teams tackles. So that's where a lot of these depth position players will be, whether it's corner, linebacker, running backs, anybody that is lower on the depth chart will be playing special teams, right? Because if you're not a starter, you need to make. That's how Chris Ballard built his roster, right? If you're going to be second, third, or even fourth string, you need to play special teams, right? That's why, you know, wide receivers like Mike Strawn were waived or cut. They can't play special teams, or they didn't show the ability to play special teams. And so that limits them, right? So if they're not a starter, a sole starter, then you need to have value somewhere else. And I know Mike Strawn was hoped for by several Colts fans for the last couple of years, myself included, to make the roster because he showed such great potential, over these last 2-3 Augusts in the preseason. So we're outside of linebacker, long snapper, and this was the name I forgot last time, was Luke Rhodes, our longtime long snapper, going into his 7th season. Going to be snapping the ball to Rodrigo Blankenship, or not, excuse me, not Rodrigo, but Rigoberto Sanchez, the punter, coming off of his injury. I hope Rigo stays healthy because when he's healthy, he's one of the top punters in the league. No question about it. Rigo is elite at what he does. If you've watched Colts games over the last few years, Rigo has pinned them inside the 10, inside the 5, over and over again. And special teams is really huge, right? Special teams, there's a lot of people out there that overlook special teams. And Pat McAfee will bang his drum till, through night, through day, and into the next year, right? Special teams wins ball games, right? We saw that several games with block kicks, block punts. Bubba Ventrone's units were elite. And with Bubba gone, I'm going to be very, very curious to see how our coverage teams play, how our kicking game is consistently. I apologize, I don't know the special teams coordinator's name, but we need that special teams consistency, right? Us as Colts fans have been extremely spoiled over the last several years with special teams. And getting into the quarterbacks, we are keeping 3. And the reason we're keeping 3 is this. So there was a couple issues over the last few seasons where quarterbacks got hurt, and we saw this with San Francisco last year. They went through, I believe, 4 quarterbacks, maybe 5. They lost Trey Lance, they had lost Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm trying to think of other names that happened, but San Francisco was cycling through quarterbacks, and it got to the point to where they needed to have an emergency quarterback, which was, either a running back or a wide receiver or a tight end, somebody that played quarterback in high school. And that is crazy to me. Very unlucky that happened. But because of that, we get new rules. And the NFL last week passed a rule where the teams are allowed to carry a true emergency quarterback that will not dress, and the stipulations have to be that they have to be on the 53-man roster. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how can they be on the 53-man roster but not dress? Well, teams, believe it or not, only dress, I believe, at 47, maybe 48 players for game day. Okay? And that leaves 5 players inactive or healthy inactives. And the emergency quarterback will not dress, but if a situation arises, they are allowed to come into the game. Now, I don't know if that means if, say the starting quarterback gets hurt, then the emergency third string quarterback goes and puts his pads on, or, I could be wrong. They could come out padded. Excuse me. But that was a new rule that was passed. Teams carry an emergency third string quarterback on game day. And for us, that's Sam Ellinger, excuse me. But Sam Ellinger will be our emergency third string. We've got Gardner Minshew as our backup, and of course, Anthony Richardson, the rookie out of Florida, will be our starter, number 5. And this is where I'm going to pause the roster breakdown for just a few moments to talk more about Anthony Richardson, because there's been so many mixed reactions, mixed thoughts, and overall mixed feelings about Richardson starting, right? I'm not talking about him as a person, I'm solely talking about the decision to play him. I will put it on record now. I'm all for it. And here's why. This is kind of an approach that I've heard a few others take, and I kind of built my thoughts on this off of what they said and threw in my thoughts, and here it is. So, with Anthony Richardson, I firmly believe starting all 17 games as a rookie. And I am fully ready to embrace the ups, the downs, the turnovers, the touchdowns, and the boneheaded mistakes that rookies make. And there's going to be a few, right? There's no way that this kid can come out and be as polished of a passer as Andrew Luck, or he's going to be Lamar Jackson with his legs. Right off the bat, he has that talent, yes. But again, he started 13 games in college. He is 21 years of age. 13 games in college, granted, yes, it was at Florida. It was against the SEC, which is the top level of competition in college football. But that's not NFL. 13 starts in college is 13 starts in college. I don't care if you were D3, D2, FBS, FCS. 13 starts is 13 starts. And I can see where the super concern is of like, hey, have him sit for a year. Watch Gardner Minshew. How does Gardner Minshew play the game? How does he manage the game? How does he deal with adversity from throwing an interception or a strip sack or, is a false start penalty, offensive pass interference that negates a touchdown? How is Richardson going to attack this adversity, which there's going to be a lot of? I believe, as I stated, he needs to play because in today's game, everything is so fast paced. Everyone is looking for the immediate answer. And the Colts, unfortunately, being in the AFC, have to deal with an ungodly amount of talent at the quarterback position. And we've seen over these last several years with the evolving of NFL offenses, with the evolving of the game, if you don't have that elite dual threat quarterback that can get out of the pocket when everything collapses in 1.75 seconds, when you don't have the quarterback that can strike fear into the eyes of a defense because, oh no, I gotta come after him because if I don't catch him now, he's 35 yards down the field or he's 60 yards down the field, doing fly eagle fly in the end zone, which tip off to Anthony Richardson. That was awesome. I fully support that. Love his confidence. I know some may not like it. Some may like, oh, it's cocky, it's arrogant. No, I think it's confidence. I want this kid to be confident. I want him to succeed. And if that's how he's having fun and staying confident, then by all means do that. But, obviously don't completely disrespect or offend anybody. Just do things in a professional manner, right? Because you are a professional now. All right, that was me on my soapbox. I'm getting off my soapbox now. So the quarterback position is something that I'm more than willing to accept the good and the bad together. Now, this next position group is the touchy part. Okay, running backs. I don't want to get into the Jonathan Taylor situation too much because we talked about that to a great extent last time. And again, I really hope that we can get over this and see Jonathan Taylor, number 28, in the Colts royal blue again. But, with everything going on, I don't know. But here's what we're dealing with, right? Positive. So let's go through it. Man, allergies and colds already getting to me. So, running backs, we've got 4 of them. So the first one listed is Jake Funk. He was just elevated today from the practice squad because our alleged starter to be Zach Moss, who was acquired in a trade last season with the Buffalo Bills that sent Nyheim Hines away. Zach Moss is who we got in return from Buffalo, and he missed a lot of training camp in the preseason with, I believe, a broken arm that he had a procedure on, or it may have been a wrist, excuse me. But Zach Moss has been listed as doubtful. Most likely he's not going to play tomorrow, would be my assumption. So Jake Funk was elevated from the practice squad, and he will be on game day roster. All right. I don't believe Funk will see much action. He may, if it gets down to it. Whether it be garbage time or a running back gets hurt. Hopefully that's not the case. But the majority of play will go to Deion Jackson and Evan Hull. I called him Jordan Hull. That's my mistake. It is Evan Hull, listed at 5'10", 209. He is 22 years old, out of Northwestern. This kid showed a lot of flashes in the Big Ten last year. If you watch college football, Evan Hull showed remarkable skills both as a pass catcher, a blitz back, meaning that he took on a linebacking blitz or a corner blitz and showed great protection skills. And he showed a lot of that same thing in the preseason. And I think Evan Hull might be the dark horse star here among the four. Deion Jackson will probably be the starting running back against the Jaguars. Because he did show several flashes last year, and I mentioned that last time. But Deion Jackson will probably be the bell cow to start. Evan Hull will probably start coming in maybe later in the first drive, or they may sprinkle him in immediately. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how Shane Steichen uses these running backs. All right, safeties. We have four of them listed: Julian Blackmon, Nick Cross, Trevor Denbo, and Rodney Thomas, all of whom are under the age of 25. Are at 25 or younger. So very inexperienced here at the safety position, which means secondary as a whole is extremely young. So again, another position of concern because of the youth. The talent is there. Between Julian Blackmon's ball hawking skills, which we have seen profusely over the last 3 seasons, Nick Cross and Rodney Thomas, both very young, but they've shown several flashes. And I think that coming into their second seasons, respectively, they in their second system with Gus Bradley as well, they're going to improve, and I expect to see improvement at the safety position. But again, time will tell because they are so young. As for offensive tackles, so we've got Blake Freeland, Ryan Hayes, Bernard Raymond, and Braden Smith. Raymond will be the left tackle, Braden Smith right tackle. Braden Smith has been a Pro Bowler. We have seen this several times when he is healthy. He's in the right mindset, and he is on his game. Braden Smith is a very, very, I'm not going to say elite, but he is a very, very good right tackle, both in the run game and the pass game. Bernard Ryman is the huge, huge piece here because he is Anthony Richardson's blind side. I need to see continued growth that Ryman had over the last 6 games from last season. If he can do that, and he can consistently play the left tackle position at a high level, I'm not saying elite, but a high level, a very high productive level, then that burden, that's one of those things that Anthony Richardson can just put in the back of his mind that I don't have to worry about because Ryman's got my blind side. I'm not going to have to worry about a huge 6'3", 285-pound rush end or outside linebacker coming hard and smoking me in the back. That is a huge relief for a quarterback. All right, out of the tackles, we've got the deepest, my personal opinion, the deepest position on the roster, and that's tight end. Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson, Will Mallory, and Drew Ogletree. So Jelani Woods was placed on IR to begin the season. He will miss at least the first 4 games. But to me, that's not as kind of a big of a loss as that seems, because he did come on so well last year as a rookie. I don't think that that's that big of a loss. And here's why. So Jelani Woods was able to play both as the blocking tight end and the receiving tight end, or the Y tight end. He did the latter, the receiving part, much better than he did the blocking. And with 4 tight ends on the roster, Mo Alley Cox, who has been around now going into his sixth season, Speaking is hard. English is hard. Mo Alley Cox is going into his 6th season. And I believe that he is the Jack Doyle now, if you will, in the run game. He is the one that can pick up those defensive ends. He can pick up an outside blitzer, coming in to stuff the run before it even happens. And as we've seen, he is acrobatic as all get out. If you remember that catch in Oakland a few years ago, one-handed, woo-wee. I think Mo Alley Cox is going to be a favorite for getting third down conversions in the red zone. He's a big target. He's 6'5", 267. He's a former basketball player. That he can get up. So I'm excited about him. Kylan Granson. This is where I kind of have some really high highs and really low lows, because Kylan Granson has flashed several times, whether it's in games, this year at training camp out at Grand Park here in Westfield, or practice. He's flashed considerably, and he's got speed. He's 6'3", 242. He is a true Y tight end, right? You're not going to ask him to come in and, shove his face mask in 6'6", 290, right? He's going to be acting more or less as a slot receiver, but bigger. And this is where my super high is that he and Richardson have already developed a really good chemistry in the middle of the field. I believe it was against Buffalo that Richardson threaded it between 2 linebackers to hit Granson going up a seam. And we might see a lot more of that as the offense really starts to develop over the next few weeks and more of the playbook is mastered. As for the other 2 tight ends, we've got with Will Mallory and Ogletree. Both young. So I'm treating this as Ogletree's rookie year because he missed all last year with a torn ACL. Again, he came back healthy and he showed the same sort of flashes he did last year. Granted, it wasn't as consistent, but they were there, right? I expect there to be a lot of rust coming off of an ACL tear. And Will Mallory, the rookie out of Miami, I think I called him a rookie out of North Carolina last week. That's my fault. He is a rookie out of Miami, listed at 6'4", 239. I believe he's more of another one of those true receiving tight ends, whereas Ogletree and Mo Alley Cox do both. So we'll see if and when they decide to use Will Mallory. That's going to be a very intriguing aspect of the Colts offense, is how they use all these tight ends and if they use all of them at once or in the same game. All right. A position of concern, I think, for a few people, because we initially started out with only 4 wide receivers on the 53-man roster. Then they went down to 3, and everybody was like, whoa, hold the phone. Why do we only have 3 wide receivers? Well, we found out there's a lot of roster juggling. When Jelani Woods went on IR, they brought back Isaiah McKenzie, who was cut, brought him back. He's on the active roster, not like a practice squad call-up, but McKenzie is on the active roster. We've got Josh Downs, the rookie out of North Carolina, Alec Pierce, the second-year man out of Cincinnati, and then we have Michael Pittman Jr., if you will, our number 1 receiver. But if you excuse me, Michael Pittman did an interview after practice this week, and he said something that really caught my ear. He said, "I don't view myself as a number 1." Or as a true number 1, because I believe we are all number 1 receivers in this locker room. And that kind of really caught my ear because if you remember last season, Michael Pittman, and even the year before, Michael Pittman came out and was like, "Yeah, I want to be, I want to be that alpha dog. I want to be that go-to guy." Now, granted, that's probably still his mindset and good for him, but publicly saying or publicly changing your message like that, to me, that is whether it's the doing of Reggie Wayne, Shane Steichen, or it's just a team mindset in general that, hey, we're all number ones. We all have the ability to make the same plays or provide the same impact. That is a complete change mindset of like, hey, I'm not out here looking out for me to be a true number one. I'm out here to do anything I can to help the team. And if that means I only get two, one, maybe even no targets in a game, I'm fine with that because I know we're all going to perform at a high level. And to me, that shows that there's more cohesion already. And we haven't even played a game yet. And that, like I said earlier, that is my biggest concern is cohesion with this team. And I think that we're starting to see that because of whether it's a mindset that Shane has brought in or it's just, maybe some cancers were in the locker room last year that no longer there. And I'm not going to assume any names. I will let you all do that. And again, I don't know anything for fact. So, we're just here talking about the Colts. But again, there's been a mindset change somewhere, in my opinion. And that's going to be really interesting to see, how the wide receivers, their body language on the sideline after a negative play, after a positive play, their usage, how many targets is each one getting, and just really the cohesion of the offense in general. As the quarterback, as the skill guys go, as the whole unit goes, the team goes. All right, so that's wide receivers. That concludes our. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one. Juwan Winfrey, a practice squad call up. So that gives us 5 wide receivers for game day. That makes me feel better. I'm not shocked. But again, I know this was an area of concern for a lot of us. And, again, this is a relatively young group outside of McKenzie, who's going into his 7th season. This is very very curious to see. Now, the wide receivers also are much different this year because if you remember over the last pretty much all of Ballard's tenure, he's drafted wide receivers taller than 6'2", and the respective heights of our 5 wide receivers for game day: 5'9", 5'8", 6'3", 6'4", 6'1". There's a nice differential in there, right? We don't just have tall guys trying to be Megatron, aka Calvin Johnson. But we've got a diversity. We've got different flavors, if you will. So, different looks to give a defense to really consider. So that's the roster. Jacksonville's roster, as I alluded to, has changed significantly. I'm not going to break them down because we're already almost 50 minutes into this. And, I'm not going to sit here and make your ears bleed or put you to sleep. But Jacksonville's roster, we saw it last year. They got talent on both sides of the ball. They can make plays defensively. They can give you different looks offensively, whether it's multi-receiver sets, different backs coming at you, and of course their quarterback. Their quarterback is on his way. I'm not going to put him in the elite category, but he's on his way to becoming elite. Trevor Lawrence, the third-year man out of Clemson, the prince who is promised. Any Game of Thrones fans listening, kind of reminds me of the description of Rhaegar Targaryen. Tall, sleek, blonde, long blonde hair, really well spoken, so on and so forth. But anyway, Trevor Lawrence is going to he's a problem. He's mobile, he's athletic, strong, accurate arm. No, this is going to be a second year with Doug Peterson, the new head coach. Well, no longer new, excuse me, but their head coach. The Super Bowl winning coach from Philadelphia. So I expect to see even more efficiency out of Trevor Lawrence this year. And I think, as I alluded to earlier as well, the Colts are going to have their hand full because Trevor Lawrence has a plethora, and I mean plethora of options from wide receivers. I mean, they've got, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, tight end position. They've got Evan Ingram, who former tight end of the New York Giants. Um, they've got some big boys too. Running backs, they've got several running backs who have started games. Like I think 3 of their 4 running backs have started games. They got Travis Etienne, who's the feature back. Jermichael Hasty started a couple games last season, I think for the Cleveland Browns. Same thing with D'Ernest Johnston. He's started a few games in the NFL before. And then their rookie, Tank Bigsby, who has garnered a bit of attention because he flashed a bit in preseason. So, offensively, they got a lot of weapons. Defensively, they still got their rush linebacker, Josh Allen. They've got, let's see here. Let's have a look here, what Jacksonville's offering. Let's see. Clavon Chasen, Travon Walker, who are, all looks like most of their defense have been first round picks or former first round picks. So there's talent up and down that roster, and Colts are going to have their handful tomorrow. So, as for the way the game's going to play out, so kickoff tomorrow at 1 p.m. I believe, and here's kind of just my thoughts based off of, I'm going to put last year aside because last year was a different coach, different playbook, different style. So we've got an infusion of youth. We have excitement at the quarterback position, healthy. We don't have anybody probably besides Zach Moss that's going to miss the game. Defense, Gus Bradley's around again, so continuity going into this season with the cover 3. Overall, let's see, it's really hard for me to think about this because there's a lot of factors. The Colts haven't won an opening week game, and I believe now going on 8 seasons, which is crazy to me. We haven't won that means we haven't won a home opener since, let's see, do the math here, like 2015. Good night. Again, I'm just kind of guesstimating based on math here, but we're long overdue. The Indianapolis Colts are long overdue to secure a Week 1 win, to secure that 1-0 record that we so badly need. Because I think that 1-0 record will do a lot for this young team's confidence. And as for the game tomorrow, it's really hard for me to say because there's going to be a lot of energy. There's going to be a lot of excitement in Lucas Oil Stadium. And that's where, in my gut, I say that the Colts are going to barely pull out a win, right? And if it is going to be a Colts win, I believe it's going to be lower scoring. For those of you who gamble, the over-under for total points tomorrow, I believe, is 46. I can see it being under that to where the Colts pull out something like 21-20 or 17-14, 21-17, something in that realm. All right, now as for individual performances, Jacksonville's going to throw a lot at Anthony Richardson, right? Just like Shane Steichen's going to open up his playbook because, preseason's super vanilla, right? You don't want to show anybody anything on tape. You don't want to give away what you're thinking about doing. So I'm very curious to see what kind of motions, what kind of RPOs the Colts do on offense and how Jacksonville responds, and vice versa. What kind of looks is Jacksonville going to throw at Anthony Richardson? Are they going to blitz? Are they going to play a lot of zone? Are they going to stuff the box? Are they going to play press man? Are they going to play off zone? Are they going to play I can go on and on and on. But again, the real big key is our offense versus Jacksonville's defense, because that you got to score points to win in this league, and if we can't score points, then we're not going to win. I mean, A plus B equals C. Simple as that. So, again, my gut says the Colts are going to pull out a emotional win that's basically just going to be driven off of pure raw emotion and excitement and just youth and experience, right? Because when you're young and inexperienced, you just go out there and play. A lot of times you get your vets out there who are just, it's like, oh, it's another week. Some things get in their head. You never know, right? So, again, I personally think the Colts will win. I'm going to call it right now. Colts win tomorrow, on a last-second Matt Gay field goal to win 20-17. Um, I think Anthony Richardson may have a couple of turnovers. He'll have some errant throws. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 2 interceptions tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a completion percentage under 55%. Now, I say this not to get anybody down, but I say this out of A, realistic perspective, and B, out of just kind of common sense, if you will. Rookie quarterback against a stout defense. So, again, we're just going to have to see how 60 minutes of football plays out. But I'm excited. I hope you are too. And, you know, anybody who listens to this or watches this, I ask to please be patient, right? Please be patient with this team. They're young, very inexperienced at the coaching, at the quarterback position, and on the roster as a whole. So, again, I hope for the best for the Colts. And as for this content, I hope to start really getting consistent with this. I know there was a big gap between this one and the previous one, and I apologize for that. Life gets in the way sometimes, as it does for all of us. And improvise, adapt, overcome. So I hope everybody enjoys the game tomorrow. I plan on doing episode 3, whether on Monday or Tuesday. Hopefully, it'll be uploaded by midweek. And then we will follow up again with another preview. I'm going to try and get this consistent to where we do 2 a week for Undertaking the Colts. So we'll do a post-game reaction, and then a few days later, we'll upload some outlook into the next week, any news going on with the Colts, whether it's injuries, contract, roster moves, anything that is of good note. So I hope all of you have a marvelous football Sunday, week 1. I wish everybody nothing but the best. Thank you. Thank you sincerely for listening. And if you would, please feel free, share with a friend, share it on social media, and I cannot wait to see where this season goes. Take care. God bless. And y'all stay safe out there. Take it easy.